Avengers 2 Age of Ultron. Pretty good. Yeah. Hey everyone, Lee here. So last night, me and the wife went out to the local drive-in to see Marvel's latest blockbuster, Avengers Age of Ultron. Overall, I thought it was pretty good. Now, I liked the first one. I thought it was fun, I thought it was entertaining, but I always felt it was a little bit, overhyped. Now, I know most people will disagree with that, but hey, that's kind of how I felt for that one. However, with the sequel, I thought they fixed a lot of the flaws that happened with the first one. You know, generally plot-wise, yes, it's different, but I mean, we see a lot of the same elements. We see the team having to fight together. We see bickering. However, where the first film, you had to have that introductory, bringing all the heroes together. This time around, you didn't have to do that. So you see a lot more scenes where they're actually hanging out together, which to be honest, I thought was super cool. There's one scene in particular that I absolutely thought was amazing. They just completed a mission, they're at the after party, and everyone's just kind of hanging around, you know, drinking, having fun. They're joking about trying to lift Thor's hammer. It felt very real. Like this is a real team of guys and girls that are getting together and yes, they save the world, but they also, you know, hang out. They share this goal with everyone of trying to save people. I also loved the villain in this movie. Now don't get me wrong, I liked Loki in the first Avengers. I think he's a great character and a lot of fun. But with the character of Ultron, you see that he's cool, methodical, but a little bit insane sometimes. I particularly love the scene where he first awakens. To be honest, we don't really get to see that very often with movies like this. Sure, rogue AI is a very common trope, but we don't get to see them when they first awaken, when they first gain sentience. And the fact that this scene was included just blew my mind. I thought it was an amazing scene to have happen. I'm also sure you've seen in the trailers, the Hulk and Iron Man get into a fight. That's actually pretty epic, to be honest. And really, for the whole movie, there's a lot of very grand fight scenes. They're very well choreographed, can tell what's going on. The only instance where I was a little confused was in the very beginning. They're on their first mission, attacking this fortress, and there's just a lot of confusion going on. You know, they're fighting different people. There's no real setup to the fight. Something I think they could have done a little bit better. Otherwise, it was really good. Everyone's communicating, they're fighting together. It looks really cool, and you can tell that these guys are a team. They work well together. Without getting into too many spoilers, something else that I actually liked over the first one, Hawkeye actually makes a much larger role. Now, I'm not a comic book reader. To be honest, I barely have time to read regular books, so I don't know much about the character of Hawkeye, and I always felt that in the first Avengers, he never really had any character development. We see him get brainwashed, and then he comes back, and he's fighting at the end, but we don't really know who he is. Obviously, we know who the other characters are. We have either individual movies, or they're so famous that you don't really need a movie particularly about them. If anything, the only characters I was kind of let down by were the characters of Quicksilver and Scarlet Witch. Not to say that they were bad characters, but I don't think they were really fleshed out like they could have been. And I think that's one of the problems that you have when you make a film like this. We have an ensemble cast, we know who these characters are, and you're trying to introduce more characters in them. You're going to have weaker characters because you have, you know, Iron Man and Hulk and Thor and Captain America. You have these big characters, and then you're trying to introduce these two other kind of minor characters, and honestly, the movie could have not had them and it would have been perfectly fine. Granted, they had some good scenes, but I think overall they were probably the weaker characters of this movie. We also get introduced to a new character, Vision. Now, I don't really want to spoil his origin, but I mean, if I remember correctly, there are posters with him on it, so it's not really a spoiler that he's in the movie. Now, like I said, I don't read comic books, so I don't really know anything about this character, but they make him to be a very interesting and likable character. Granted, he reminds me a little bit of Dr. Manhattan, minus the, you know, CGI penis. Now, while I really enjoyed this movie, there's one thing that I had a hard time personally getting around, and that's the fact that you have to almost watch other Marvel movies to be able to understand exactly what's going on in this particular one. Now, I know this might not be a problem for people that are really into the comics or that watch all of the Marvel superhero movies, but for a general audience member, I can see it being difficult to understand where this movie is coming from. For example, at the end of Avengers 1, we have the team, you know, they save New York from the evil aliens coming through the space portal. We have Loki, who's kind of behind it. He stayed for behind the scenes. You know, you saw that Thanos is kind of guiding everything. But in Avengers 2, you know, it starts out doing something completely different. There are things, events, and backstory that happened in either Winter Soldier, in Iron Man 3, or in even Thor 2. Now, while this is great that you're having all this other build-up into this bigger movie, it's not good in a storytelling sense It's like when you go and watch a book adaptation and you understand what's going on in the movie because you've read the book, but if you haven't read the book, then it's hard to follow. That's kind of how I feel with Age of Ultron. Again, great movie, a lot of action, the character development is fun, we see a little bit more character development, but some of the background plot had me scratching my head a few times trying to think back, where did I miss something? You know, as the Marvel Universe keeps going and we keep seeing more films that are all-encompassing of what's going on in the larger background story, I think this is going to be kind of an issue that we see happen a little bit more often, especially with Avengers 3 and with the new Captain America coming out in a few years. I have a feeling you're not going to fully understand what's going on in these movies unless you've seen the previous ones. Come to think of it though, that actually could be a very good marketing strategy, forcing you to see the other films before you go see the next one. So that's my review for Avengers Age of Ultron. What do you guys think of the movie? Go ahead and leave a comment down below, or you can hit me up on social media. Also, since this is my first review of anything, let me know, how did I do? What can I do better? Alright everyone, you all take care. Hey everyone, if you like this video, go ahead and hit the like button, or you can subscribe to my channel and you can see all of my other stuff that I do. Generally I make vlogs, but I'm trying to get into this whole review thing. Come on, you know you want to subscribe.